ask Matthias Tinyamande from NAST, who is our chapter SG, to come and just give us something to bring up our energies so that we can start our program.
Moyo wangu odzungaira fiza ndina musandi chemendo endandega zuari moyo wangu fiza ndina musandi chemendo endandega paukama ahoy makomrades ahoy ahoy makomrades ahoy ahoy Zinasu ahoy. Born with the freedom of expression, but there is no freedom after expression. Born with a mouth to speak, but once I tell the truth, I'm condemned. Referred to as a politician when I stand with emotion against those that oppress. Always been told that if you were in favor of the privileged, you would be far. But I would rather struggle and sweat for victory to be certain. Was once told that you are free to condemn those who oppress. But the moment I stood on a platform, I was seen as a threat, treated as a criminal by those that have criminalized our rights. The Constitution telling me that I have the right to freedom of expression. The country submitting to the African Charter that holds opinions of citizens. The African Charter says that I have the freedom to express myself. I have the freedom to hold an opinion. I have the freedom to impart my opinion to those that I believe to be capable. But hence I'm stricken by those that I once believed to be the leaders, but rather they came in as oppressors. What was I supposed to say? Am I still an African child or a convinced civilian in the African continent who can be pointed to be as a threat, but rather is fighting for the fight that matters the most, which is the fight for academic freedom? It has been misunderstood by so many people as they point to us as a threat, as our parents who are even in authority come with us with butter sticks, trying to beat the hell out of us, they say, to put us in line. Why at least I was also a child of a civil servant who could take 3 months' pay so that she can be able to pay for my fees at NAST, who could spend each and every cent that she could get so that she can pay for my comfortability in raise at NAST. We have become a threat, ladies and gentlemen. We have become a threat to those that oppress. We have become a threat, ladies and gentlemen. We have become a threat to the system that was voted for, whereby the media is not given the privilege anymore to monitor the judiciary, the executive, or even the people that are within the government. It's not able to play its role anymore as the watchdog, because when people speak, they are hunted as if they are animals. Hence the coming of the Fifth Estate, which is now a platform in which we are able to use in order to accommodate our views, because only on those routes are we not able to be traced. But the Cyber Security Center is located in the office of the president. The Broadcasting Services Community is elected by the president. And even the 9 members are elected by the president. And those that are nominated, the 6, are also, 3 of them are also elected by the president. No room for diversity. Our views will never be accommodated. As long as I'm not wearing a scarf, I'm saying something that will never be accommodated. As long as I'm not in favor of those that are oppressing my rights, I am not a good person. Freedom of expression it is. But is there freedom after my expression? A luta continua.
Comrades, I think we need to give another round of applause for Comrade SG. Thank you very much. I think to begin our session now, I would love to acknowledge the presence of the Zimbabwe National Students Union, President Comrade Emmanuel Stima. We welcome you, President. And then also to acknowledge the presence of our National Coordinator, Comrade Ashley Funye, and also our esteemed panelists, whom you shall see shortly after we get the welcome and opening remarks from our National Coordinator, who is also going to give us reflections from the last high-level education forum and the progress that we have made so far in terms of our advocacy work, and also introduce the topic of the day. So at this point in time, I would love to welcome you, National Coordinator, Comrade Ashley Funye.
Amandla awethu maibuye. Comrades, we need to orient our ideological consciousness. Maibuye. I don't know if this can be reduced to the presidential height, because I'm facing some challenges here. Thank you very much. Greetings to you all. First of all, I'd like to recognize, of course, the presence of the President of Zimbabwe National Students Union, President Emmanuel Stima, the Vice President in absentia, who is actually on her way, also, together with their National Executive. Would also love to recognize our esteemed panelists, as the Programs Officer has already alluded. We know that there's Honorable Kumete, we welcome you. Dr. Malinga, my sister Busi, we welcome you. And of course, Brian Bifector, who's going to moderate the session. I think today, I'm here, my duty is very small. I'm here to welcome you all to this beautiful province, the Bulawayo Metropolitan Province, also known as Kontutu Ziyathunqa. I'm sure you all know the reason why it's called the Ntutu Ziyathunqa. It's because Bulawayo was a hub of industrialization. And today, it's very relevant because we are going to discuss a new epoch of the beginning of a new industrial period, where we are facing the digital period, where we are facing a future that is going to be redefined by a clear fifth reindustrialization revolution. So this is very timeless and speaking to the conscience of the moment. And the topic is saying, promoting digital literacy, redefining and remodeling education for the future of work. So this is very thought-provoking. And I'll just give a brief background of the High-Level Education Forum, which is a new idea that is disruptive and enriching in terms of bringing together all stakeholders that are acting in the education sector, bringing together new ideas and new people to collectively build bridges around promoting the education that we want and advancing the struggle of academic freedoms. So this is a bridge creation so that together we can collectively find harmony and find a curriculum and find a working environment in the education sector that promotes the education that we all want. And from our previous high-level education forum, we had a very also esteemed panel that discussed in terms of the governance and accountability of higher and tertiary education. And from there, we made steps because we made commitments. From there, we started to see a very robust challenge in institutions in terms of accounting to the students. I remember we had a lot of court cases coming through to challenge institutions who were charging students using US dollars when we know that the official currency of this country is the RTGS. So we did that and we challenged together with the partnerships that we created, together with the collaborations that we created. And we saw a lot of victories around that. After that, we won a lot of SRC elections. I'm sure you have some here who are serving in the new SRCs that Zimbabwe National Students Union won. And we strengthened our relations with the civil society. And that's why we are here today, working with other esteemed members of the civil society. But we are here also to define a new path. We have done a rapid exercise in terms of mapping the new methods of activism. We did what we call the student democracy theaters, which were mainly focused on coming in with innovative ideas to push advocacy, coming in with creative methods of pushing and lobbying so that we can have a developmental democratic state that is anchored on the pillars of social justice. And this is only attainable by building bridges, and this is why this high-level education forum is important. But I must say that the future of work is a critical issue. The future of work is what is defining the next historical epoch in terms of what young people are going to be interested in. And the future of work is the one that is going to take the digital space that we have. It's more like the mattress that you'll be sleeping on will be able to monitor the nightmares that you'll be having. The moment that your shadow shows up, the doors will open, because this is the new intelligence that is coming in, a new artificial intelligence era. And as us young people, I know that AI is going to be invincible. It's going to be embedded in the mundane. It's going to subtly shape the experiences that we are going to have. But as young people, is our intellectual ferment prepared enough to be able to respond to these demands? Is our curriculum prepared enough to prepare students and the institutions that we're learning at to be able to advance a solid and a quality student who's going to be able to meet the demands of these times? Because we are now living in a global era. We are living in an era where Zimbabwe is not isolated. I know some think we're isolated because of sanctions. No, we are not isolated. There are few individuals who are very rancorous that are being isolated by those mechanisms. But as a collective people, we are here to fight and advance this cause and to make sure that students are at the center in redefining and remodeling education, but also remodeling the narrative and the discourse that this country must take in terms of digital democracy, in terms of preparing the future of work. COVID has taught us a lot of lessons, and these are some of the things that we should learn from. So how do we then move forward? How do we move from point A to point B that is defined by the current circumstances? And I think this is the particular time where we are calling for a unison of forces. We are calling the computer scientists and the business leaders who are developing this technology. We are calling on the political actors who are shaping these policies. And we are calling on these military strategists also who are deploying these technologies. And we are calling everyone to come together. Let us reason together in fighting for the advancement of this technology, but also making sure that it puts humanity first. So colleagues, comrades and friends, compatriots, I welcome you to our second high-level education forum, where we are going to get a reflection of what is happening, but also get a futuristic discussion that is going to focus on what I have already alluded to. So I thank you very much, and I welcome you all. Amandla.
Thank you, National Coordinator Ashley Funya. I think, after such eloquent speakers, you'll be doing injustice if you continue speaking in your simple language. It might be boring. So at this particular point in time, I'm going to introduce Brighton so that Brighton can introduce his panel, and then we get to our next session of the panel discussion. Brighton, it's your time.
Right, good morning, guys. I hope you guys are well this morning. In the era of digital security and so on, my mic decided not to work. But anyway, I want us to do a small exercise this morning. Please remove your phone if you have a phone. I know most of us here are on Twitter, so please remove your phone this morning and raise your phone like this morning. Please remove your phone. Right. I want to see your iTels this morning, right? I hope all of us are on Twitter. Are we on Twitter? Right. Are we all on Wi-Fi? Right, let's go on Twitter. Let's go on Twitter. Let's do this small exercise. Let's go on Twitter, all of us. Let's go on Twitter. Type the following. Type the following. I know most of us are students here, right? So type the following. I am currently attending. I am currently attending. We're typing on Twitter. I am currently attending high-level education forum. I am currently attending high-level. I am currently attending high-level education forum. I am currently attending high-level education forum organized by Zinasu in Bulawayo. Organized by Zinasu in Bulawayo, full stop. Hashtag high-level education forum. All together. I'm currently attending high-level education forum organized by Zinasu, full stop. Hashtag high-level education forum. Are we done? I'm sure we are done. So allow me to introduce my panelists for this morning. Very esteemed panelists, doctors and MPs. Yours is going to be an interesting one. And also presidents. So it's going to be an interesting one this morning. So we're looking at promoting digital literacy, redefining and remodeling education in the future, for the future of work. So my first panelist coming through to join me this morning is Dr. Wayne Malinga. He holds a PhD in development studies from the University of Fort Hare in South Africa, a master's in development studies, and a BA honors in history and development studies, both from Midland State University in Zimbabwe. Let's clear pens for Dr. Malinga as he comes forward. All right, my second speaker for this morning, joining me, is going to be Ms. Busi Dube. She's a fearless human rights activist and development work expert. She has a vast experience in youth empowerment, related work, stakeholder engagement, monitoring and evaluation, and capacity building within the youth and gender-based institutions. Let's clear hands for Ms. Busi Dube from NYDT as she joins us forward. My next speaker to join us is Honorable Minenhle Gumede. Is a member of parliament for Bulawayo North constituency with a degree of political administration and psychology from the University of Johannesburg. She is now a chairperson of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Higher and Tertiary Education. Let's clear hands for Honorable Member of Parliament as he joins us forward. Our last speaker, I'm sure we all know the Commander-in-Chief, President Emmanuel Shitima, leads the Zinasu Students' Union as his president. He's a radical, as you know him, fearless human being, an advocate for participatory democracy, social democratic, and believe in student rights and academic freedom. Let's clear hands for our Commander-in-Chief as he comes forward. Right, I'll start. Let's check our mics if they're working. I'm sure we have how many? 3 there. I'm going to share this one with you, Dr. Malinga. Let's check our mics if they're working there, Honorable Member of Parliament. Guys, please help me with my mics there, if they're working. It's working. Okay, cool. Let's start our conversation this morning. I'm sure you guys will be tweeting as we discussed this morning. So tweet, remember the hashtag high-level education forum. Remember to put that hashtag as you tweet this morning on what we're talking about this morning. So my first question to you, President of Zinasu, Emmanuel Chitima, on the issue of digital literacy. How do you think the education system in Zimbabwe can better integrate digital literacy in terms of the curriculum? I know sometimes the curriculum is outdated. How can we integrate that in terms of the curriculum in universities? Over to Chitima. I'm giving you 5 minutes to respond to that.
Well, thank you very much. Convivial salutations, fellow members of the academia. Greetings to you all, the suffering students in our teapot-shaped motherlands. Of course, I respond to the name Comrade Emmanuel Shitima, the Zimbabwe National Students' Union President. Allow me to start by appreciating this platform where we discuss this key concept of digital literacy you know, we are now in a fifth industrial revolution where digital literacy is at the center of everything that we do, where we are living in the world, where AI is taking the higher stage, quantum computing. So it's really important to actually rope in issues of digital literacy in our academic field. So to answer to your question, I think maybe the mic is ever jealous, but I'll try to maneuver through it. So when you, I hope I'm audible enough to you guys at the back. So yeah, so issues of digital literacy, it's something that I would like to call, it's not just important for students to be digitally literate, but we must be digitally fluent at this stage. You know, AI is violated, is taking the center stage in the economy, in how things are being run, even in the democratic space. So it's important for government to, and institutional of higher learning, to actually try to come up with what we can call curriculum reform to include issues of digital literacy. Because, you know, if you are to go to institutions of higher learning which are a bit marginalized, maybe to say national and central, where we have Nyatire Teachers College, you would find out that you can rarely find a Wi-Fi connectivity or internet connectivity at that institution. So there is need of deliberate move by the government and institution of higher learning to improve on digital infrastructure in institution of higher learning, to say no, we can actually try to beef up the infrastructure support, to say computers are ever there, internet Wi-Fi connectivity is ever there, so that we'll be able to tap into the world of AI we are now living in, world of quantum computing we are now living in, to be able to rope in and understand the fifth industrial revolution we are faced with as a generation. There's also a need to actually improve and model our curriculum towards that, our curriculum towards the issues of digital literacy. To say no, each and every program we must rope in key concepts and skills of digital literacy. We must have modules as core modules of each program, so that we even someone who is doing law will be able to understand issues of digital literacy. Someone who is doing political science will be able to understand issues of digital literacy. It's not something that should be confined to those who are studying sciences and IT alone. But everyone, as a student, should be able to rope in those key concepts, because that's where the world is going, and we must be able to understand those issues. So I think basically it's something that us as the students, stakeholders who are here present, parliamentarians, government officials, civil society organizations, and other progressive individuals who are willing and understanding that the world is now going digital, should be able to understand these issues and rope in and try to push and advocate for curriculum reform, infrastructure. You know, we are talking about education 5.0, but you would find out that there's no an innovation hub at Kushinga Pikelele. There's no an innovation hub at Nyatire Teachers College. But digital literacy and digital inclusion comes with us having innovation hub, comes with us having infrastructure to be able to give students a platform to actually rope in those key concepts of digital literacy and digital skills.
Well, thanks so much. Let's clap hands for him. Wow, quite interesting what was raising there. Maybe allow me to bring into this conversation the director of NYDT. I know you're working with young people in terms of your programming every day. These are young people, these are young students, right? In terms of CSO engagement, what role do you think CSOs have in terms of advocating for digital literacy to be part of this curriculum in terms of young people, in terms of universities?
Good morning, everyone. Yes, I've been working with young people for the longest time. I was also a student activist during my time, and I'm also the vice chair of the Crisis Coalition, which I've seen many people being a part of, young people being a part of. Of note is technology is everywhere currently, worldwide. Everyone is using technology, apart from the marginalized communities that we have in Africa and I think in other even in Europe, there are marginalized communities that have no access to the digital world. With the incoming of the digital technology, we've noticed that there's now a divide. There are those people who are well-versed or have easy access to digital platforms, and there are other communities that do not have the easy access to digital platforms. This is where us as CSOs come in with regards to access to information and accessing these digital platforms, because we have noticed that without digital capacity, your credentials are not competitive in the job market. That's why we are advocating as CSOs, pushing for policy on digitalization of the institutions, tertiary institutions, the primary and secondary education institutions. As CSOs, our job is to raise awareness in communities. We have community meetings with the parents, with community leaders, traditional leaders in rural areas, all the people who are important, the authorities that help in formulating policy or influencing policies within these communities. We also have a role to play by engaging these tertiary institutions and highlighting the importance of digital literacy. Because as the coordinator, Zinasu coordinator mentioned, we don't live in a vacuum. We live in a global village. So we should now embrace the fifth revolution and also be in tandem with what's happening worldwide. We also have, as CSOs, working like with CSOs where Dr. Malinga works, we formulate position papers that we submit to our parliamentarians. We come up with petitions highlighting the importance of digitalization of our education curriculum. As CSOs, we also try to magnify the problems that are happening within the communities due to lack of the digital literacy. We have communities like Binga that are very remote, and I think they're countrywide. Communities like that where the network is a challenge. You have to go up a hill to get network. So we as civil society, as the voice of the voiceless, we highlight those challenges. We help. We are the bridge between the state and the communities. We're the bridge between the students and the government departments that can facilitate the implementation of policies that will include digitalization. As CSOs, our role as well is to also be inclusive, make sure everyone with specific needs is included in these policies, in the digitalization of our curriculum, of what is happening in the job sector. So we have groups that we work with. We have people with disabilities, we work with the youth, we work with women, we work with the elderly, because all these people have different needs. So as you formulate policies, you have to be specific in how they will be beneficial to these specific groups. We just don't, like youths are not a homogeneous group, for example. So we have young people who are at tertiary institutions who want to use this technology for research and other things. We have young people who are in the informal sector who can use this technology for marketing their products. Amakorogoza, you can market using social media. You can market using Facebook. So we try and bring up those issues and we escalate them to the duty bearers, to our MPs, to our councillors, so that we live in a community that is in harmony and is in touch with what is happening worldwide. I think for now.
Yeah, I think that's quite true what we're saying there. There's this thing that Dr. Malinga always look about and argue and say, the Maslow hierarchy of needs, right? Earlier on we were arguing that there's food or there's water and so on, but now I believe the internet tops that in terms of use that daily to communicate. Allow me to bring this conversation again now, Dr. Malinga, to you and to the Honourable Member of Parliament there on the issue of high data prices in Zimbabwe. Students are not working, they want to submit their assignments, but data dula is very expensive, the data. So what can be done by the Parliament, by the CSO, by the students to come up with mechanisms to engage government on high data tariffs in Zimbabwe? Over to you, say, and I'll go to the Honourable Member of Parliament later.
Thank you so much, Brighton. I think you have raised one critical issue. I think when we look at the Southern African region, we have got one of the highest data prices, and that is becoming a huge challenge in relation to how students can be able to access information. But it's not only students, but we've got that impact or escalating impact on businesses, on individuals, on any other sector. Because what we now live in a world where connectivity is one of the most critical and important issues. And I would like to highlight this. During the COVID period, a majority of universities and any other tertiary institutions in Africa were not ready to move to e-learning. So that is why we ended up having challenges. It's not only challenges in part of the institutions, but also challenges even on the part of academics. Some did not even know how to use Microsoft Teams. Some literally had no idea of Zoom. So this is when we started to see how technologies are quite important, especially given that we're in the 21st century. Everything is literally driven by technology. But at the same time, we also need to be considerate that our government also needs to come up with a mechanism of ensuring that there is data availability or the pricing is quite affordable for anyone. But at the same time, we also need to look at this current debate that is taking place, Starlink versus the traditional networks that we currently have. And you now have got this space where we need to start having these private public partnerships where we can be able to find a leeway in relation to how can we be able to deal with this data issue. But at the present moment, it seems like there is a pulling of other people on one side, then there's another pulling side on the other side that, well, if we look at Starlink, we can actually have internet connectivity for everyone in the country, even those in the remotest of areas. I would like to say this, I'm a academic, I'm not an academic. The reason why I'm saying I'm a academic is because it allows me to be in a CSO at the same time being in an academic institution. So I've got this core relationship of being able to have this practical experience, and having gone to the remotest of rural areas, you would actually really have these questions of how in the 21st century do we have people who do not have network connectivity. And so a lot of questions really come into mind that what needs to be done. And first, government needs to sit down. We need policies that respond to the issue of data. We also need to have companies and even allow private partners or companies to be in the space. As long as the space is shrinked, it means that we are not going to have any competition. The reason why we also have a majority of these challenges is because there's literally no competition in Zimbabwe. As long as we have given service providers to actually provide us with network, etc., and do not allow private partners, it means there's going to some complacency, there's always going to be relaxation. I think even yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, we actually were out in terms of network connectivity. So these are some of the challenges that we currently have.
Well, thanks so much for that. Let's clear pens for Dr. Malinga this morning. I want to maybe to hear from you guys this morning as well. Before I go to the Honourable Member of Parliament there, I want to hear from you guys this morning. How much do you spend on data as a student? How much do you spend on data a month as a student? I want to pick two hands before I go to the Honourable Member of Parliament there to respond to some of the issues. How much do you spend on data? Chief, yeah, ma'am, I see your hand is up. How much do you spend on data per month? That is something $80 per month as a student, not working, no grants from students, right? I want to hear from you, Chief, at the back there. Yeah, you with glasses. How much do you spend on data per month? $25 US dollars, right? They're not working, Dr. Malinga. They're saying they're spending $30, $25 per month. Honourable Member of Parliament, Honourable Kometa, how do you respond to these issues that have been raised here on the issues of data prices, areas which are marginalized communities, don't even have access to internet? What are you guys doing in Parliament in terms of pushing for these issues, and what can be done going forward with CSOs, with students?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm actually shocked I was invited here. I think you're supposed to actually invite the ICT minister to come and answer to all these issues, but I'll attempt, obviously, now that I'm here, to try to speak to the issues around the students. As Parliament, our responsibility is to guard the interests of the students, guard the interests of the broader citizens of Zimbabwe. So whatever is required, we know that education is for everyone. Education being for everyone, everybody has to be given equal opportunities in order to develop and go as far as they can in terms of education. I will just propose maybe what we can do as a portfolio committee for education, maybe which would be to push for the subsidized internet access for students in tertiary institutions, because like you said, some cannot afford data, but they still need to learn and be able to access digital technologies, computers, etc., equally, just like every other student. Maybe also we can establish Wi-Fi hotspots in our institutions so that students can have better access to internet in public areas without relying solely on mobile data. Lastly, maybe we can advocate for policy changes. We can advocate maybe for policies that promote affordable internet access for students, such as maybe regulatory reforms to reduce data prices, or initiatives to expand internet infrastructure in undeserved areas. So I think that's what I can contribute. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Member of Parliament. That's Honorable Kumete there. Guys who are joining us online this morning, we're at the high-level forum, education forum brought to you by Zinasu. We're talking about issues of promoting digital literacy, redefining and remodeling education in the for future of work there. Those who are joining us online, please pass your comments as well and your questions for our panelists this morning. Allow me to bring in the president of Zinasu there, in Emmanuel Chitima there, on the issue of access to devices, resources, and data. I know most students afford, some don't afford to buy a laptop or to buy a smartphone, and some don't even afford to buy $30 data that Joshua was mentioning there. So what can be done to bridge the gap between those who can afford and those who can't afford in the issue of, in the name of equal resources and equal opportunities to everyone? Obviously, according to the Constitution of Zimbabwe, we deserve equal opportunities, but however, our backgrounds are different. Some can afford, some can't. How do we bridge the gap, Chitima?
Well, thank you very much for such a question. I think it has been our mantra as Zinasu since day one that nothing for the students without the students. So I believe that there should be always inclusion of student voice when it comes to decision making, institutional higher learning, inclusion of students in key committees that actually have programs and programming for digital literacy initiatives in institutional higher learning, so that we will be able to voice out our issues as students. As I'm speaking right now at the University of Zimbabwe, where we have software engineers, more than 150 each stream, we have only 40 functioning computers at computer science department, which is something that is not reasonable. So there is that gap that is always created in institutional higher learning, to say those who cannot afford maybe to have a gadget, a PC, or something like that, won't be able to pursue their academic studies very well, because there is always that exclusion due to affordability. So as student leaders, we are then saying that no, when there is key committees like the council, where the minister comes in, where the SRC should be there, those meetings should always make sure that student voices are included there, so that we address those issues directly to the minister, directly to the relevant authorities, to say no, there is need to probe up infrastructure development when it comes to the digital area, to even to voice our issues directly to the minister, so that they can equally direct our grievances to the relevant ministry, which I believe that is the Ministry of Finance, which is supposed, when they draft up that budget, they are supposed to include such issues that are affecting the student in Ministry of Higher Learning. If you are to check even in the national budget, there's very little that is channeled towards infrastructure development. There's very little that is channeled towards research. But we can't talk of research without digital literacy. We can't talk of research without involving issues of digital inclusion. So there's always that mantra we preach, that there's nothing for the students without the students. It's not just a political rhetoric, but it's something that is really important to make sure that our issues are really understood and heard by those in power. So I think that's number one issue. Number two, there's also what I think that if we are to really understand what challenges students are facing in Institute of Higher Learning, we can't talk of digital literacy, we can't talk of a digital society without the ministry itself implementing that. There's need to create a digital platform where not only Zinasu like this, which is raising issues of digital literacy, but even a general student can raise concerns, can raise issues on a platform at national level from the ministry, where they can even have a feedback mechanism, where they can even conduct surveys as a ministry, where just a general student can comment and input what they feel and what they are experiencing in their different campuses. I think that's all that I can say as a student leader.
Right, guys, if you are talking sense, please clap hands. Don't be jealous with the clapping of hands, guys. Right, thank you so much for the clapping of hands. Malinga, you have been a student yourself, you've been doing research. Have you speaking on the same issue there, or on saying that if there's no digital literacy, you can't do research? Speak to us as a student, as a former student, as a researcher, to say, without a laptop, how do you do your research? Without internet, how do you do your research? Maybe speak more to that issue there that was raised by Chitima.
Thank you so much. And maybe as a lecturer, what we have seen really is so saddening, given that a lot of students do not have access to Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi nowadays is supposed to be something that is basic in an institution of higher learning. Two, we are seeing that other students do not have access to gadgets or devices like laptops, so that is also another major challenge. And three, we're also seeing in a number of cases where students are researching using their phones, which makes it really difficult for them to be able to write their assignments, etc. And so these are some of the challenges and barriers that we have in relation to digital technologies, their access, and also even use. But at the same time, maybe when we are looking at these challenges, especially from the vantage point of disadvantaged students, I think a number of critical issues can actually be raised in terms of trying to find solutions. I think one of the most basic is that there's a need for infrastructural development, especially in relation to technologies. There's a need to put infrastructure that can actually be able to increase the bandwidth, connectivity, etc. It's also quite important that we've got subsidized or affordable devices. I think part of the key challenges is that the prices of laptops, the prices of some of these smartphones are actually high, that students can't afford. But at the same time, we've got institutions of higher learning that have got computer labs without computers. That is also another major challenge. So there's a need to subsidize the pricing. At the same time, we also need digital literacy training. I remember during my student days, we had a module on ICTs, and literally there's nothing that I learned there. All we did was to copy and submit, and that was it. And when I had finished my degree, I asked myself, what really did I learn in relation to ICTs? So there's a need to have that continuous training of students. I think at the present moment, we already have got this divide between students and AI, where as academics, I can actually read that this is not your English. It's quite easy for me to do that. But at the same time, we also need to teach, one, the academics on how to use AI, two, teach the students as well, who are the consumers, on how to use AI. So as long as we do not have that kind of training, it becomes really difficult. At the same time, we need mobile and offline learning solutions. We always have got this thing of wanting to prioritize online. How about we also prioritize offline, so that we can actually start having solutions and even have open educational resources where we ensure that students have got access to educational materials I think in a number of universities, some now subscribe to different open resources where students can actually be able to access information easily. And I think maybe these are some of the steps that we can actually be able to do in order to ensure disadvantaged students from disadvantaged backgrounds can actually be able to have access to these digital technologies. And I think when I studied university, I did not have a phone. I remember I used to go to MSU, you would carry your desktop, and sure you've got your monitor, your screen and everything, and it was a heavy machine. But because we were still living in that era, we had to learn a lot. And whenever you put your research, it was in a floppy disk. And once that floppy disk crashes, your whole dissertation disappears. So these are some of the challenges that we've, but I'm glad that technology has also moved, but we need to move in sync with this technology. At the present moment, what we're seeing within our institutions is that technology is now far ahead of the institutions themselves in terms of being ready. That is why I was talking about COVID, that caught us unaware, and you really had these struggles. So these are maybe some of the solutions.
Clear pens, guys. Should I remind you every time? Wow, man, quite interesting what you're raising in there. Carrying a desktop to school, quite interesting there. But allow me to bring Busi into this conversation again, Busi. I know you're working with NGOs, young people, and now if you're employing young people, you check their LinkedIn account, you check their Twitter account, but without data or smartphone, how do they get to be on LinkedIn? Let's talk about the impact and the importance of digital literacy now. What role can CSO play in terms of raising awareness to communities, to parents, to stakeholders about the importance of digital literacy, even in Parliament? What role can you play as a CSO in terms of raising awareness to parliamentarians? I know most of them that don't know about AI. I saw the Minister of ICT speaking anyway. Let me keep quiet. Over to you, Busi.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Brighton. Indeed, COVID caught us unawares. We started acting. We started reacting. We did not know what to do. We were panicking. We were all over the place. But in some countries, they just moved swiftly because they have the readily infrastructure to sustain such problems. Okay, I'll go back to our role as civil society. What civil society is doing currently is promoting and coming up with projects or programs of low-cost technical interventions to facilitate continued learning. Dr. Malinga mentioned that he studied ICT, but it was just copy and paste. So what the role of the CSOs is to support these institutions. I know most of you have attended some digital training workshops, digital training seminars that have been offered by our colleagues in civil society like SITE and YIT. I think that's our role, to support the line ministries that should be doing this job. So far, civil society does that. What we also do as civil society is coming up with influencing the curriculum, coming up, doing research-based evidence, working with organizations that are in research to go to the communities and say, what is the problem here? What do we need here? And escalating that to our parliamentarians through position papers, as I mentioned earlier. And in terms of raising awareness, we have our different advocacy initiatives as CSOs. We work with different groups. When it comes to young people, we package that, the messaging, in a manner that is attractive to them. We use social media to show them that you can actually do this to get this job. You can actually do this to communicate this message, to run a campaign, to run a GoFundMe if you need to raise funds for your tuition. We also, as CSOs, capacitate you with that knowledge, capacitate you with those skills. We also, I mentioned earlier, we do community meetings where we go deep into the communities and show them the advantages of this technology that you can, back then you used to write a letter and it would get to the UK or Bulawayo after a week or 2 weeks. The UK says, I think it was 6 months or so. But now it's just a WhatsApp away, So we tell them that you have to, when you engage with your parliamentarians, tell them it's your constitutional right to demand information, to express information, express yourself in a manner that you deem fit, of course not threatening the security of the country. But we go out and do capacity building initiatives where we invite young people, the parents, the community leaders, as I mentioned earlier, that we need to embrace the fifth revolution, industrial revolution, because when your child goes to school, compared to a child who is digitally aware, who is trained, who has capacity to execute her duties from home, execute her duties on the phone, in terms of, let's say, some of you are in the marketing field, you'd want to go and work for, let's say, Royal, in Bulawayo, I mentioned company in Bulawayo, Royal, or National Blankets, or Archer. They'll ask you, can I see your Twitter account? Can I see your Facebook account? Your LinkedIn? Can I see your Instagram? To see how you fare in those spaces. And it has become a challenge. We have young people coming from remote areas, like where they do not have access to these facilities. So on the job market, Vele, you are not competitive enough. They'll give the job to the person who has the capacity to execute using digital platforms. As CSOs, we interact a lot with the duty bearers. We are the go-between, as I said. We are the ones who have the information, specific information of what is happening on the ground. We come up with petitions. We lobby Parliament to enforce these policies, and yeah, etc., etc.
Right, speaking of employability in terms of digital literacy, my day-to-day job is to host a space. Do you know space? Do you know Twitter Spaces? Hello, students. Do you know Twitter Spaces? I work there daily, every morning, from 8:30 to 9:30. So you see, there is employability ngapi on social media platforms. I do the breakfast club website on Facebook, where the social media platforms. So there's future in terms of what? Social media platforms. Imagine if you don't know about issue of digital literacy, and tomorrow you're hired to work for site. How will you maneuver there? Again, allow me to bring the Honorable Member of Parliament there before I come to you guys with your questions on the issue of transparency and accountability to our government. Chitima spoke about the issue of the budget allocation. Tulingube came with the budget last year, and there was less money given to the education sector. If I look at South Africa, there are grants for students. There are laptops for students. I think there's NSFAS, I think. But when it comes to Zimbabwe, I've never seen students getting laptops from the government to say, those who are coming from underprivileged families, poor backgrounds, here's a laptop to ensure that we have a smooth transition in terms of writing assignments, illustration, and so on. How can we ensure there's transparency and accountability in terms of disbursement of funds from the Minister of Finance? Over to you, Honourable Member of Parliament.
Thank you very much. The government of Zimbabwe obviously recognizes the importance of digital literacy in shaping the future of the society. However, it's not enough to merely allocate funds towards this cause. We must ensure as parliamentarians that these funds are utilized efficiently and transparently to achieve the desired outcomes. Obviously, when we speak to issues of digital initiatives in higher tertiary institutions, for focusing more on marginalized areas, there has to be a way that these funds allocated to the education sector can be able to cover what is needed, can be able to cover good internet connectivity in those remote areas or the marginalized areas, can be able to get students digital devices and tools that they need, can be able to get computers and so on and so forth. But sometimes, for example, for the year 2024, we have been allocated $2.4 trillion in the budget. And as much as we would like to stretch those funds and do all the projects which we know are going to be beneficial for students, it is not possible So it is always good that maybe we look at the public-private partnerships within the education sector who can come in and close those gaps and assist us with the challenges. On the accountability aspect, obviously we must put in place tracking systems on how the funds which are allocated for us are utilized. Obviously, our role as parliamentarians is to monitor, evaluate, go to the sites, find out how this 2.4 trillion was used. And then when it comes to that, we then look for other people who can then partner with us in terms of the other things that we know that the students need, but things that the government may not necessarily be able to do for the education sector at the moment. 2.4 trillion covers the infrastructure and all the projects that the higher education sector is doing. There are budgets allocated to finish NAST. There are budgets allocated to finish off the projects, which maybe sometimes for the past 20 years we have been failing to finish. So if we are being practical, if we are failing to sometimes finish projects because of the allocations which are not enough, we then need the CSOs and non-governmental organizations to then partner with us and be able to assist us even with the digital devices or the networks which are needed for our students in the marginalized areas. I think.
Well, thank you so much, Honorable Member of Parliament, for that response. Guys, I want to hear your questions now, your contributions to my panelists. I know we are students here. All of us here have questions. I have a lecturer here, Dr. Mailinga here. I have Busi from NYTT. Tomorrow maybe she can be your boss. You never know. I have Chitima there, the president. I have Honorable Member of Parliament there. Maybe she can be your boss tomorrow. So please, guys, raise your hands if you have any questions. Can I have a roving microphone, comrades? Can I have one roving microphone? I see comrade here with a hand up. Please give her the mic to ask your question to my panelists this morning. There she is.
Thank you. My question is to the whole panel. My question is that the president spoke about artificial intelligence. Most people are not aware what AI is, but if you Google it, it defines it in different ways. But as students are using the internet and other digital platforms, right, there are dangers of using AI. I'll give you an example of an AI that is everywhere, that I saw even at my school at HTC. People are using Pi. Pi even gives you false information for physics formulas, but students are just copying and pasting that. Students are now lazy. They now even have a tendency of not writing their own assignments. They just go on a website, gives them everything, takes all scholars, copy and paste as it is, give it back to the lecturer. How then do we make students aware of the dangers of doing that, and how then do we encourage students to be innovative and also creative in terms of their academic learning?
Comrades are now using AI to plagiarize assignments. Yes. I see you, comrades. And I end at the back there, and then I'll come back to my panelists to respond to that. There. Please say your name and which institution you're coming from.
All right, thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Yvette Ngoma from the National University of Science and Technology. So my question is not mainly centered on the National University of Science and Technology, but I heard the Zinasu national president articulating that there are some institutions, such as Nyadire institution, that have labs that have no laptops. So maybe, as I can paraphrase first for you to understand the question, I'm very sure I learned there. I stayed there for about 8 years. So I'm very familiar about the place, and what he has been saying is actually true. But us gathering here and talking about higher institutions, it means we are coming from somewhere. So those who are learning at Nyadire, going to teach other students, they are just having the theoretical part of it, but there is no the practical aspect of it. They don't even know what digital literacy is even about. They don't even know how to get into influence into each and every sphere of influence on digital literacy, because they are well vested in the theoretical part, of which everyone is well aware of, but they don't even know about the practical part. So when people learn that and come here, they only know the theory, but they are not vested with the practical aspect. Then, getting back to the verge of the discourse, to my question, I wanted to ask that how best can you penetrate those institutions that are lagging behind, and how best can we have a time frame that is not limiting, because it's now over years when that situations are being uprising. Thank you so much.
Wow, quite interesting question being raised there. But also, maybe to add to what she's saying there, I remember right now in terms of at work, with this what we call Excel spreadsheet, most of us learned that thing at work, but with ICT courses at school. But most of us learned how to use Excel at work. I know most of you don't know how to use Excel. I know. Let's take one last hand there at the back from a guy now. At the back, one more last hand. Is there a guy at the back? Over to you, Chief. That one there, with a nice suit there. Then I can come back to my panelist.
Okay, thank you so much. This question I'll direct it to our Member of Parliament, which is also related to the point which was indicated by my sister there. So how does the government plan to evaluate and the effectiveness of digital literacy initiative, ma'am? Thank you.
Thank you so much for those questions. I'll start with you, Dr. Malinga, on the issue of AI, plagiarism, students, and so on. I'll start with you, sir.
Thank you so much. It's so fortunate and unfortunate at the same time that I've actually experienced the copying and pasting crisis, especially in relation to assignments that we give out to students. In as much as we used to have the plagiarism software turn it in, unfortunately when it was designed, we had not anticipated that there was going to be AI. I know a majority of students are now using ChatGPT, Paul. These are some of the various AIs that are being used. But at the same time, it's becoming a major challenge, given that you give a student an assignment, they put it on AI, they sleep, wake up in the morning, copy and paste, and put the cover page with their name and student number. Those are some of the challenges. But in actual fact, AI is not meant to give you the correct information, but it's meant to guide you in terms of your thinking and your thought processes. But unfortunately, some students, especially when you look at AI and if you ask a question, there is rarely any evidence-based answering that you get. It only gives you the idea that this is what you are supposed to look at. But unfortunately, we've got students that are not meeting AI halfway when AI has literally done almost everything for you. But it's a matter of being able to research. I remember when I was doing my PhD, it's actually in a counter book. That is where I wrote the whole PhD thesis. The reason I did that was because it allowed me the time to actually process everything. So when I went into typing, I would type, paraphrasing, and also putting my own analysis, putting in my thought processes. That is what allowed me to finish the thesis. But nowadays, people kidnap paragraphs from PDF documents, from any other sources. So it's becoming a major challenge. But I hope that much training needs to be done in relation to how we are going to use AI, especially in relation to research, writing our assignments, even writing our dissertations or even thesis. It's quite important that we do that so that we do not fight when it comes to plagiarism, percentages, etc.
Okay, I'll pick on the question she raised on awareness raising, especially in Niadire. CSOs have advocacy initiatives that raise awareness on the digital literacy. For example, we have radio shows. We work with community-based radio stations. We have road shows, you know. There are such initiatives that will come to rural communities or marginalized communities and talk about these issues. And we also have, these days people use theater to illustrate, to give out messages so that anyone or the layman can understand what we mean by digital literacy. I'll also touch on AI and how dangerous it is. But the advantage is if you receive a digital training and digital skills, you can be able to decipher whether this information is fake or this information is authentic. There are tools that are there on the internet that can help you dictate if that information you are Googling or searching is authentic or you're receiving fake information and you get a 0 on your assignment. So receiving this training and capacitated in digital literacy will assist you to be able to effectively use the internet and not just pick chaff and shoot at stars when you're compiling your assignments or when you're now in the job market. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I think I will need to re-emphasize on the issue she raised of failure of institutions and government to actually take into consideration of issues of taking theory into practicality. I think I would direct this to our government, that there is lack of political will on the part of the government, particularly the ministry, to understand that students are key stakeholders when it comes to issues of digital literacy, because we are workers in transit. We are the future or the present key national developers. So there is always important of understand. There's always need to understand that students' involvement in issues of digital literacy are very important. There is need to understand that there is need to co-create and formulate solutions and policies that have a lot to do with digital literacy. That includes maybe coming up with multi-stakeholder committees that involve the students, the civil society, the parliamentary portfolio, the ministry itself, and even the industry stakeholders, because that's where we are going after graduating. So there is always the lack of that political will on part of the ministry itself to say, no, let's come up with key committees that can formulate a policy that involve and group in issues of digital literacy. So we are now the NDS number 1, which is the government document, speaks about not leaving anyone behind. But as students, as future employees in transit, we are being left behind. We are saying that there are teachers at Nyatire Teachers College who do not have access to internet connectivity. There's no Wi-Fi there. There are no laptops there. But those teachers, after graduating, they are going to discharge and give a service to the future generation of this country. But they don't have practical knowledge to understand what is how to use an Excel spreadsheet, how to use even a Word document. You're getting it. So there is need for the government to understand that students are the major stakeholders when it comes to issues of digital literacy. Students are the employees in transit. Students are the future of this country, and we remain the key component of national development. So there is need to come up with committees that involve all those progressive arms of the society, the students themselves included, the civil society, the government, and obviously the industry stakeholders, to come up with solutions towards that.
Thank you very much to the last speaker for speaking to the issues around where government can come in the promotion of digital literacy in our institutions and for the benefit of our students. We do have a specific committee in Parliament which is looking at issues of artificial intelligence, issues of this digital promotion. It's the ICT Portfolio Committee, which oversees the programs that the ministry is doing, especially when it comes to the benefit of the public and how they do their awareness campaigns on the importance of us harnessing the digital era. But obviously, as government and as parliamentarians, we should implement policy measures and legislative frameworks and prioritize and support the promotion of digital literacy in educational institutions. I heard you say that those who are training the students are also not quite aware, they cannot grasp the digital locus, whatever. So we need to train our teachers and make sure that we work with the civil society and NGOs and the private sector organizations to deliver training programs and resources to those same teachers who are going to go back and start to teach our students, having themselves first grasped the concept of digital technology. Then we also, as parliamentarians or legislators, have to come up with a national digital literacy strategy. This literacy strategy has to set clear goals and targets for its promotion in educational institutions. We can also have curriculum integration where digital literacy skills are incorporated into the national curriculum across all levels of education, ensuring that it aligns with the Zimbabwe's educational goals and strategies. I also lastly believe that for research and evaluation, we need to invest a lot in research and evaluation for us to be able to assess the effectiveness of digital literacy initiatives and identify areas obviously of improvement and encourage collaboration between researchers, policymakers, educators, and even other stakeholders to generate the evidence-based insights and drive a continuous improvement in digital literacy education. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that response, Honorable Member of Parliament. Let's clap hands for you. I'm going to come to you guys again with your questions. Allow me to bring Ubus into this conversation again. She spoke about the issues of frameworks and policies that can be put in place to promote the importance of digital literacy in educational institutions, be it NAS, be it LSU, be it MSU. Maybe speak more to that, Ubusi. What are these policies that can be put together to promote abantu abatsha universities bebekwazi about importance of this internet and digital literacy?
Okay. Thank you, Brighton. There's a need to prioritize the digital literacy through, I think it has been mentioned by my colleagues here, allocating, I think, a specific or large amount into the national budget, a large amount of money that is specific for capacity building within these institutions, digital trainings, and infrastructure development within the tertiary institutions. I think, as the MP Honorable said, we can start off from the catch them young, from primary level to tertiary level infrastructure development. So I'll re-emphasize the point that there is a need by duty bearers, by the authorities, to allocate a large sum of money and resources into digital literacy. And these will help, as well as in terms of experts, coming up with paying experts or bringing about experts within these tertiary institutions who will help capacitating even the lecturers who teach these students, as well as what can be done as well is consult extensively with various stakeholders to find out what helps them in their communities. We live in different communities. Each community has its own needs, and we can't say what's happening in Plumtree is necessarily what's happening in Bulawayo. We have different needs, and I think as students or young people, this should be incorporated into our day-to-day lives through digital literacy. So we also have to address the inequalities that are within our communities, that are within our nation. We have different groups that we work with. The PWDs also have to have a specific allocation, women a specific allocation, and young people a specific allocation vis-a-vis digital literacy within these tertiary institutions. As for policy, we can come up with policy position papers as CSOs to push or advocate for policy that will mainstream digital literacy into our education curriculum. Thank you.
Right, to those who are joining us online, I haven't forgotten you. I see your comments and your questions to my panelists this morning. Let me just go through a few of those contributions this morning before I go to my audience. Someone says, change the way you teach students. And someone says, do more seminars and presentations. I hope you are listening actually there. Do more presentations and seminars around this. And someone says, why do you need to write policy briefs and position papers for MPs? Why do you elect people who are not knowledgeable and uneducated to understand complex developmental issues? You elect someone who is not knowledgeable. Next day you write him or her position papers. It is not a waste of time because he or she will not take time to understand that position. Wow. People are saying yes. Those who are joining us online, people are saying yes. They're clapping hands to your comments. Keep them coming. I want to hear your comments and your contribution this morning. Let's have a roving mic again. I want to have this engagement session. I want to hear your questions, your contributions, your experiences in terms of what's happening in different tertiary institutions. I see my comrade over there with a nice suit again. Let's have a roving mic, comrade, to that far end. Pass my microphone to this gentleman there at the back.
Thank you so much for this platform. My name is Wado Gombingo from NAST, National University of Science and Technology, as the SRC president. My question, or let's say a contribution to the government sector, specifically to the Member of Parliament. I just want to clarity on the issue of modular learning. Before we start blaming artificial intelligence, before we even start blaming some other digital instruments that are being used by students to ensure that they get information. I understand now, due to modular learning, we don't have time to do research. We don't have time to even engage our lecturers to be able to get information, to be able to write assignments. For example, right now, we can safely say that for the whole semester, or for a student to finish a module, he or she can be given 1 week to finish a module. Imagine 1 week for the whole syllabus. And probably, let's say, these syllabus are now outdated. I can safely say that my assignment that I can be given this semester, I can even go to a graduate who graduated 10 years ago and say, can I have your group assignment? And I can even copy and paste without the use of artificial intelligence. There is no revision of these syllabuses. There is no changes in the questions that are being set by these lecturers. So I don't know if there was student involvement in the modular learning thing, or it was for the benefit of the lecturers. Because imagine, for the whole term, a term of which was supposed to have 4 months, a student is now supposed to only have a week to study a module. What about these 4, 8, 12, 16, 17, 18 weeks for that lecturer? What is he or she doing Probably now he got a farm or working in a farm, but the students are here at the institution. So I think there is need for revision and to revisit the modular learning thing and involve students in this issue. So I don't know if you can have a platform or have a meeting with the Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education. Probably you could ask the SRC President or Secretary General, anyone to represent the institution or even in high school and revisit this issue of modular learning. I thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, my guy, for that. What you are raising there is very important and very critical. But however, last week there was a performance review, assessment review of ministers. The Minister of Higher and Tertiary Education was the second runner-up in terms of the best performing minister in Zimbabwe, according to the state. Anyway, let's move on to the next question. Ma'am? I see you, Chief. I'm coming to you.
Good morning to my panelists. My name is Lillian Tinotenda Mwandavaka from Bindura University of Science Education and also an electronic engineer in the making. As a student who is well vexed with artificial intelligence digital literacy, I have discovered that in most universities, due to lack of computers and laptops, most of the students that are learning computer science, information technology, electronic engineering, they are not being well taught about artificial intelligence, them on their own, and yet it's part of their modules and part of their course. But because they lack computers that are suitable for programming environments, because for you to be able to program, there is need for a certain computer that is capable or that can hold a programming environment. And when we talk of these computers, they are the most expensive laptops out there, because we are talking of laptops that hold SSD. And when we talk of a student coming from the deep rurals of Zaka, they cannot afford that laptop. That's why you discover that in most universities, students are not being taught in depth about artificial intelligence. They are not being taught in depth about learning how to code or learning how to program. Now my suggestion goes to the Parliament and the Ministry of Higher and Tertiary Education, Ministry of ICT. I think there is need for the government to disperse laptops for this certain category of people. Because if we are not doing that, we are training toothless bulldogs that will go out there into the environment and are not able to program or develop Zimbabwe the way we want to develop it globally. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much for that. Quite interesting what you are saying there on the issue of practicality of it, right? There are more theories in Zimbabwe. I was telling someone that when I was in the US doing some studies, right? That side, they are more practical. In Zimbabwe, we are more theoretical. Every day they're fitting us theories. But when you get to be employed, you can't apply those theories because you never saw a laptop. You never saw a microphone, but you're a journalist. You never saw a newsroom, but you're a journalist. So the practicality aspect of it lacks in terms of our tertiary institutions. Let's go to the comrade over there, then I come back to my panelist.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Tole Denford PG. And my suggestion in my question is, in order for us to remodel or promote digital literacy, we need to be enrolled. Firstly, we need to be in class. So what is the government doing to administer a disciplinary action towards the institutions who are charging in USD? Because the Permanent Secretary of Education stated that we must use the legal tender, which is the RTGS. So what is, you as the government, or you have lost grip on these institutions, what are you doing to make sure that they are punished? Because we can't be suing institution after institution. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, my guy. I hope next time, actually, you're going to bring the Minister of Education here. Because most of these questions are going towards the Minister of Education. Today, we have an honorable member of Parliament. So, anyway, let's respond. Let's try to respond to those questions. I'll start with you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Please don't be angry with me. We also fight for your interests on a daily basis as parliamentarians and legislators that you voted for in the respective constituencies. I will answer the first question, which was about modular learning from the first speaker. I believe that in the one of the sessions that we had with the ministry, we understood that modular learning was flexible, and it could optimize the resources of those who could not maybe be able to learn in the way that maybe other students maybe could do. We also were inclined to believe that it was accessible and catering to the diverse needs of all the students and whatever situations that they were in. But however, what I can say, as legislators, it is your responsibility to communicate with us exactly what you need, whether it's in your institutions, whether it's in the communities where you come from, your constituencies. You communicate clearly so that we are able to articulate those issues on your behalf. What we will do ourselves is to call ZIMCHE, because ZIMCHE is the council which is responsible for all the institutions, the higher learning institutions in Zimbabwe. It's responsible for the quality of the education that you are given in your respective institutions. It's responsible for the standards in all these institutions, and it's also responsible for the oversight, program accreditation, and quality assurance. So the best that we can do as your legislators is to call ZIMCHE and have a discussion around the issues that students are raising. That's, I think, maybe what I can say to you, the first speaker. Yes, MPs cannot claim to say that when we go to Parliament, we are knowledgeable in all the national issues. I, for one, I have a degree in political administration and psychology. I might have my strengths where I am strong. I will know nothing about probably maybe health issues and other issues. It is good if you choose your representatives. They are simply a voice of the people. So if I don't know about an issue, but you feel that it needs to be articulated, approach me and we discuss, and you tell me whatever you need as a person, and I will try my best to convey on issues which maybe I'm not too familiar. Like I'm saying, most parliamentarians, we have got different trades. Some are engineers. Some, like myself, I did, like I said, political administration. So I might not know much about ICT. I might not know everything that happens there in Parliament. But because you have chosen me to represent you, it is my duty to learn as much as possible in the short space of time and represent you in the best way I know how. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Honorable MP, for that response. Yeah, let's move on. Chitima, your response?
Well, thank you very much. I think I would like to concur with my learned brother here, President at NAST, that the challenge we are facing with model learning is that there was no student involvement when it comes to come up with that curricula. You know, in Zimbabwe, we are talking about education 5.0. In other countries, they are now talking about education 6.0 with the digital literacy as the key pillar of education. But in Zimbabwe, we talk about education 5.0, which is not yet being implemented instead of higher learning. It was not proper to just say everyone should just do modular learning as a learning system instead of higher learning. You cannot tell a medical doctor to start the module in 3 weeks and the right exam. we are just cooking a disaster for the future generation. We are just having half-baked graduates in issue of higher learning. You can't start the mathematics module in 3 weeks and grasp all the concepts and the formulas and pass. It's not proper. But maybe for someone who is studying something that is theoretical, maybe law or something like that, they are saying they are okay with module learning. So there is lack of student involvement in decision making, particularly with the ministry. I think I once alluded to it before, that there is lack of political will on the part of the ministry. They indicate right and turn left. We submitted the petition to the parliament. I'm sure the honorable member of parliament is here present. I don't know if that petition got to you, but we submitted the petition as students, raising our issues that are affecting students, issue of higher learning. We called for a multi-stakeholder meeting as students. We extended an invitation to the ministry itself, but they didn't show up. So it clearly shows that there is lack of political will on the part of the government, particularly the ministry, to address issues that are affecting students. So when there is no inclusion of students in decision making, surely we are not going anywhere. That's why we always say, nothing for the students without the students. So at the end of the day, you see Zinasu demonstrating, because we end up feeling that we can only use streets as a point of entry so that we can be heard. So maybe parents and other stakeholders in the community start to wonder what students are doing in the street, or at least they are supposed to be in class. But because in that classroom where we are supposed to be getting education, we are supposed to be getting knowledge, there's no such resource because of there's a modular learning. We cannot be able to grasp all the concepts in a class because modular learning is affecting us. We are not in a class, we are now in a street because there's no lecturer there, because he or she is being poorly remunerated. You have seen the insult of a lecturer at University of Zimbabwe being paid $2.50 per hour. Something that is an insult, you're getting it. And Education 5.0, they are preaching about, it's just but a pipeline dream, we should die there, because we can talk about research as one of the key pillars of Education 5.0 when there are no lecturers in a classroom. That's where the architectural platform of an idea of a research. We cannot talk about innovation where there's no idea, because an idea comes from a classroom. We cannot talk about ideation where we are not being taught in those lecture theaters. So we end up being in the streets demanding answers from the government officials, which we are failing to get as of now, because we have tried dialogue, we have tried to debate. Up to now we are still debating, but nothing is materializing. So we end up as students using streets as a point of entry to address the key issues that are affecting students of higher learning. So there is really need for the ministry to understand that students remain the major stakeholder when it comes to education. Nothing for the students without the students.
Wow, thank you so much for that. I'm seeing a comment right here online. Someone's agreeing with you, Chitima. They say the modularization system of learning is anti-student. It gives us too much unnecessary pressure. I think Maling are going to explain to us the issue of modularization. I last went to school with that. So we explain to us further around the issue of modularization. What's that?
Thank you so much for that question. Unfortunately, I'm going to be at the firing line, given that I'm also part of the lecturers that are looking for money out there. But however, to put it in simple words, modular learning has got its own advantages and also disadvantages. But from where I'm sitting, it's supposed to offer flexibility and also individualization in terms of how you study at your own pace, the studying style as well, etc. And again, modular learning is also supposed to be self-directing in terms of how you learn. We have had these discussions also as academics in terms of how do we contend with modular learning. And remember, the pressure is not only on you students, but it's also on us lecturers. Because I would have to teach how many classes within 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. You write an exam, and before I've even started breathing, I'm starting again. So it also has got its own disadvantages and also advantages. But at the same time, this has been a suggested new way of learning. But I concur with the president when he was talking about other courses or programs that really need a lot of time. You can't teach engineering within 3 weeks, you can't teach medicine within 3 weeks. So really there's a need to also revisit the way that we also contend with modular learning. But at the same time, it's also giving pressure to both lecturers and students. And at the same time, you find out you do not have any breathing space where you would need to really have this rapid process of learning. And at the same time, it's so unfortunate that what we are now producing are half-baked graduates who are not able to offer any skills when it comes to the job market. But at the same time, I think we've been having discussions on digital literacy. I would also like to ask the question, do we have digital readiness? Where people are now actually ready to contend with digital technologies within the working space. Remember, as we are teaching you in institutions of higher learning, we're also teaching you to become specialists and experts in your own field. So it's also important to ask the question, do we have digital readiness? Have we put anything in place to ensure that people can actually be able to really offer skills out there? And at the same time, I've had the opportunity to participate in actually 2 researches that have focused on higher and tertiary education in relation to corruption. That is the unfortunate part. I've also had an opportunity to also look at the corruption risk assessment in relation to the whole education sector, that is inclusive of primary and secondary schools, and also even higher and tertiary institutions. Part of the key challenges that we have seen is that there tends to be a disalignment of policies, where institutions are going on the other side, the ministry is going on the other side. And you've also got the issue of procurement there, where yes, there are budgets that have been put in place, but you wonder, where does the money go to? You remember the rhetoric is always the same, we are going to deliver this, we're going to deliver that, but it's becoming a disease where students are no longer benefiting. And at the same time, there's always the belief that students are not seen as the major stakeholders. Instead, we are here to serve you. We are supposed to ensure your needs are catered for. But unfortunately, we are now seeing individualistic people, or maybe let me just put it that the few are benefiting at the expense of the majority. That is the unfortunate part with higher and tertiary institutions. And even it's also becoming a disease within the primary and secondary schools, where we've got colors. Students in rural areas or peoples in rural areas actually get to learn about a computer on the board without even seeing it. And you have that person going to secondary school still within the rural community. It would mean they would spend their basic education life without coming across a computer. So these are some of the disadvantages that we have. So we need that alignment. Put in a policy, put in the resources. As long as the policy is not supported by resources, it will never see the day. So these are just some of the challenges. So at the present moment, there's no light at the middle of the tunnel. I want to talk about the end, because really the challenges are enormous. Thank you.
Yeah, quite interesting there. Thank you so much, Dr. Malinga. We'll maybe try to add a bit of what you want to add in terms of responses there, and then we'll go back to our audience.
Okay, I'll respond to the ladies' issue about the lack of infrastructure to actually become a genuine graduate who can get into the industry and execute their duties. I think first things first, I'll support what the president has said. There is need for inclusivity. During the policy formulation stage, various stakeholders should be consulted. The young people should be consulted, the students, everyone in the communities that we reside in should be consulted to formulate a policy that will be accepted by everyone, the students and tertiary institutions, the lecturers, and the duty bearers. Secondly, there's a need to analyze the current state of the digital infrastructure in our institutions, set up a metric-based goals, and also come up with, that will help us in future. Because right now we are just talking about, we don't have computers, we don't have this, we don't have microphones. What research has been done to evaluate, to assess the entire decay or lack of infrastructure within these institutions. Thirdly, what I would recommend is that there's need for the government, business communities, CSOs to invest and help fundraise for infrastructure development in the learning institutions. To seek resources, maybe from the international community, from the business people within our localities. We have Delta Beverages, we have business people in Bulawayo. We can have maybe some business people who can invest at NAST or Lupane State University and say we're going to be providing computers for this department, of computers for the entire institution. So there's a need to invest in infrastructure development, resources that will ensure digital literacy in our universities. I'll re-emphasize really on the budget, the national budget. I think there's a need. I don't know whether the parliament can help us to push that we have a huge allocation for infrastructure development within tertiary institutions. That is in terms of resources, finances, and equipment. Thank you.
Year in, year out, I always see the opening of innovation hubs. What are they used for? I want to hear from you students. What are they used for? What's there at these innovation hubs? I'll take 3 more hands, and then I'll come back to my panelists to wrap up, and then I'm done with my sessions. Over to you, comrade, on my left. Microphone, anyone roving the microphone? At the back there, there's a hand. On these innovation hubs, 5.0 as they say, what are they being used for? What's there in these innovation hubs?
Greetings, everyone. My name is Christopher Fundira from the National University of Science and Technology. It is with a sad heart that I say at NAST, the Innovation Hub, I think it's now 4 years after the onset of COVID, it's making sanitizers, it's making work suits and DNA tests only.
4 years after COVID, they're still making sanitizers and DNA tests.
In addition to that, it's also working as a center. In addition to that, it's also working as a center for the collection of graduation gowns. That's what the innovation lab is working for at NAST.
Honorable Member of Parliament, do you hear these things that they are saying this morning? Chitima, President of Zinasu, do you hear what they are saying? The innovation hub is used to collect gowns. 2024, in the era of AI, I see, and you have spoken. I want new voices. Any new voice before I give you the mic? Chief at the back there. Yeah, you're looking at me. Give him the mic. That comrade at the back there. That one.
Hi everyone. So this question is not directed to me, but to say the lecturer. Is the AI an added advantage to you or a disadvantage to you? I don't know if we've passed that phase, maybe I missed it, but is the AI an advantage to you as a lecturer or a disadvantage?
Okay, 2 more last hands before I give to my panelist. Ma'am, you have spoken. You have spoken, sir. Can I have fresh voices? Chief, you had your hand up. Comrade, your hand was up earlier. Give him the microphone.
Thank you very much. I answer to the name Commander Gona, the Legal Secretary for Zimbabwe National Students. So my question was directed to you, Honorable, from the Parliament. I heard you were talking about something to do with allocation of resources in various tertiary institutions. So my question to you is, do you evaluate whenever you send probably some of the resources in these institutions? That's my first question. Second question to you also is concerned to do issues to do with fee structure. I heard my president was asking you the same question Did you notice our petition when we sent to you, or you didn't? Then another thing is, we understand that the parliament, the government itself, whenever they allocated these resources, they sign on paper that we have allocated 2.4 trillion. I heard she talks about trillions, right? But if you ask any student from those institutions, they are not aware of these things. In some students, they don't even know about their constitution, SRC constitution. The institution itself is protecting the constitution because they don't want students to be aware of everything. They want us to fantasize things, probably. Thank you very much.
I think two more hands are burning here. Okay, ma'am and ma'am over there, and then we'll wrap up this morning. My time is about to finish. Give her the microphone.
Okay, thank you. Standing before you is Nowutaba Wendy Ndlovu from Hillside Teachers College. You asked a question about what are innovation hubs. To us, people are coming from diploma courses like Hillside Teachers College. That is an alien to us. Because first of all, we do not even have a research center, a proper one. We just have like small rooms. There is no innovation hubs. The other thing, how can we talk about innovation hubs when our labs at HTC, there are snakes in some of the labs? Like, when you get into that lab, only 2 labs were renovated. The other 4, they are a mess. And they enrolled more than 100 students in the science field, right? But the labs, there is not even enough equipment to even cater for 50 of us. Then how can we speak about an innovation hub when the college is still behind? When even during graduation, we're not even graced by His Excellency's presence. We're just graced by just the Ministry of Education and what. Us as educators were also threatened by this digitalization. Because as a teacher myself, right, how then do I go and teach a student a concept according to the syllabus when they will go and use AI, they'll go on the internet and research whatever they want, go find a tutor from India, from America, from University of Cambridge. When I, as a teacher, then I come and teach, the student will simply tell me, what you are telling me is not what I found on the internet. And the other thing, we don't have access to scholars. There are some scholars whereby Zimbabwe as a nation can pay for those scholars so that tertiary institutions can access them. But us here, we're paying, our government is failing to simply pay about 5,000 US for us to access those scholars, but they're able to buy 100 cars for chiefs. Where are we really going as a country? Thank you.
At the back there. You know, Dr. Malinga, last time I was hosting a summit in Harare, a media summit in Harare. We were speaking about AI, right? So one journalist stood up and said, how can you talk about AI when in my own newsroom, I don't even have a pen? Our desk, our chair is but I'm talking about AI. So I think divide again. Some of us are speaking from a point of privilege to say we want laptops and computers and innovation hubs, but some are saying they don't even have small minor things. So I said, let's last the end, then I come to you guys.
All right, once again, thank you so much. Me coming from the National, in bold and caps, National University of Science and Technology. Let me take it again. National University of Science and Technology. All right, you were asking about the innovation hubs. At NAST, when you get there, with anything that you want to do, you can be helped with a list of resources that you have to bring so that you can do whatever you want to do, because there is nothing that you can use there. Then there comes a question, are we the ones who are supposed to provide everything that you want to use? Maybe those things that you want to use, they cost more than $200. Then what is the use of that building? It's just a building which can be easily converted maybe for kettles to live, because there is nothing there that we can use as students. I can take you to the engineering students that are at the National University of Science and Technology. They are doing some projects. You know, if those projects are well considered and are considered to be more vital, they can help they can help even a nation to move forward. But how can they innovate them? They are just told to bring the materials that they can use. Then you can change, you can shift from what exactly you want to do. You can shift and you can limit your mindset to things that you can afford, because you are not being backed up with the so-called innovation hubs that are being built and that are being said we have. So our innovation hub at NAST is lesser and lesser of the labs and the science labs in high schools. Ours, I don't think it's certain and it meets the standards. Thank you.
Right, my panelists, you have heard from the students. They're speaking about their challenges that they're facing, and we've been talking about issue of digital literacy, what Parliament can do, what CSO can do, what students can do. I'm left with 4 minutes to wrap up our discussion this morning. So I'm going to give you 1 minute each. I know we're going to start with that one, Chitima. But anyway, 1 minute each to conclude and the way forward.
Thank you so much. You know, when we are speaking about digital literacy, I think there is a lot that we need to consider. One of the key issues is that we need to have policies in place, and those policies should actually be supported by resources, the availability of resources. This has been a major challenge. I know in Zimbabwe, whenever you leave a university, I was at MSU, and whenever I go back, the university has not changed at all. And you ask yourself so many questions. If the infrastructure, the buildings have not changed, what about the technology? Is it there? These are some of the major questions that we have. And already, as somebody who's working within the higher and tertiary education sector, there is really a lot that needs to be done. And we so hope that consultations can be done, especially with students who are the major stakeholders, so that we can have a review of some of the current and existing legislature. It can be policy frameworks, etc. But at the same time, I would have also loved to talk about innovation hubs, but due to time, unfortunately, what we have at the present moment is buildings that are not able to be innovative to begin with. There is no entrepreneurial spirit. It seems like students are not included within the innovation hubs. So this is really a major challenge. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. I'll highlight that it's really important to teach digital literacy at these higher learning institutions. It's the last chapter before you get into the industry, before you start your careers. So it is very pertinent for government and CSOs and the business community to really invest in digital literacy within these institutions. I'll also highlight that I think there's a need for state institutions to be decommercialized so that every young person can have the opportunity to enroll into these tertiary institutions, because we have some people who are very, very intelligent but cannot afford being part of these institutions. And by decommercializing, I think that's when the conversation on fundraising, getting investors from all over the world to come in and invest in our institutions, so that even young people from marginalized communities, from poor backgrounds, can also benefit from digital literacy. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I think I don't have much to say. You've heard the sentiments, you've heard the submissions from the students. It's very clear that for Professor Amon Murira to scoop the second best performing minister award in this triple-shaped motherland was a clear slap on the face of the intelligence of this country. So as Zinasu, we still demand his ear, with his knowledge or lack of it, we still demand to engage with him, because we are 21st century students. We believe in dialogue, we believe in debates, but lastly, we also believe in demonstration as a way of forcing dialogue. So our message is very clear to the ministry that we invited them to have a conversation with them. They didn't show up. So if they continue to fail to understand and respect our existence as the students, as the major stakeholder of this country, then we are assuring them of our resistance.
Okay, I've got questions around the fee structure petition. I'm not aware of it. I don't know how far your petition has gone in terms of it being received by Parliament. But despite the fact that I am the new person for higher and tertiary education, I would be aware about your petition, but I am not. So maybe you might need to investigate where it is or the stage it is in terms of the processes that Parliament has in accepting it. Also on the fee structure, it's my belief that policies have to be flexible. They have to be flexible looking at the economic environment that we are currently living in. I believe that some institutions currently they have in place a dual pricing system where they make students pay either in US dollars as well as in Zim dollars. Anyway, that is what we are made to believe at the current moment. But obviously, I think that the issue around the pricing system it's because of the currency regulations which are there, which are affecting how the institutions end up charging students. So I think we need to engage further in terms of the wish list that you as the students have. Do you understand how you go about making the ministry to do what you want to do? Do you understand that part? You make the ministry do what you want to do by speaking to your parliamentarians, who then take your issues to Parliament and force the responsible ministers and the ministries to relook at the policies and relook at all the issues that you as the stakeholders are not happy about. That's how you go about it. You go about it through a petition. You also speak to your representatives so that they can move motions, they can ask questions, they can have written questions and put pressure that way, so that at the end of the day, you are able to achieve your targets or your goals. Finally, maybe to conclude, I have already told you our role in oversight. I think I'm speaking to someone who asked about allocation and the evaluation of the budget. I think it's the young man seated in front there. The budget is first crafted by the executive. They do the skeletal draft, which is then presented at the pre-budget seminar. That is when the second stage comes in, where members of Parliament come in and scrutinize the budget, they discuss, and then they take issues that they would have gotten either from their communities or the CSOs, that CSOs or non-governmental organizations have lobbied, or that stakeholders such as yourselves have lobbied, and then they present them in such a way that the executive then goes back and considers all the input and contributions that we have given them, and then adjusts the budget in such a way that you then start to understand. The allocation of the budget, yes, we push, especially for higher and tertiary institutions. The combined amount of funds that we got, we are supposed to, as the education sector, as broad as it is, get 15% of the budget. But unfortunately, this time around, I think we got, the primary and secondary education got around 8 trillion. And then the higher and education sector got 2.4 trillion. Yes, the budget is in Zimbabwe dollars. Yeah. So it is way below the 15% that the DACA framework put in place, that every country needs to consider health, needs to consider their education sector by putting a stipulated percentage that all the countries who signed that treaty must adhere to. But unfortunately for Zimbabwe, the reason why the education sector continues to cry about this and that is because the allocations on their own, whether we get the allocations, that's 2.4 trillion, which has been given to us, is going to maybe sometimes be dispersed after maybe 4 months. They will disperse it, but you find that the inflation has already hit the amount. So whatever that they were going to do at NAST, if they got, if we did the budget and it was $10 that the ministry got, when the allocation then is dispersed, maybe because there are delays, you can find that NAST or the NAST project now has got only $2 from the $10 that it initially got in the budget. So there are all these issues that are there that we need to look at and obviously address. Finally, to conclude, I do concur that the government of Zimbabwe should recognize the paramount importance of the topic that we came for today, which is digital literacy, because it is the one that shapes the future of our society. We as legislators are going to ensure that the funds that are allocated, obviously, to this initiative are used in a transparent manner to achieve the desired outcome. Then lastly, because I've got my counterparts here, I want to say that we need to foster a collaboration between government agencies, educational institutions, civil society organizations, and private sector stakeholders, just like she had said. It's very crucial because if we are working together, we can leverage our collective expertise and also the resources that we have to maximize the impact of digital literacy. Government can only go so far because of the funding problems that all of us here in this room know about. And so we have to then start to look outside the box in these private public partnerships, in looking to our private players to come in and assist us in terms of the education sector and the needs and the gaps which we all know are there. Thank you so much.
Well, let's clap hands for Honorable Member of Parliament. Right, I've been forgotten those guys watching us online this morning on site. Let's go through over the comments and then we call it a session. Someone says that's very true. Modular learning has become of more harm than good, especially in the legal arena. It has led to half-baked lawyers. The system is grooming criminals who will pose as lawyers because they are not well prepared. And someone says, very insightful discussion there. Thank you so much. And someone says, what are parliamentarians doing in trying to address legal framework and policy implementation gaps in the educational sector? And then someone says, yeah, agreed with the lecturer there. All we do is book, few practicals and field trips. We are taught the book way, not the way, yet we end up in the streets. All right. Last one there. Someone says, thank you so much, Site, for flighting this meeting. I'm so glad to see my fellow students there and young people brutally presenting their issues. In addition to the work that the big guys at the top need to do is, I think it's important to build interest and a culture of participation among students themselves, because at the end of the day, we come here and speak of how students need to be consulted, etc., but are they willing to participate? The average student doesn't seem to care about policies that are structured and resources allocated. Their voices are always heard when things go wrong. And the last one, someone says, Commander Gona, that's very true. I'm sure the Commander Gona is speaking about, right? Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for your time. Camera woman, please take a picture of us, the panelists. Thank you so much for your time. Let's stand for a picture, comrades. Clap hands for us, comrades. You did very well. Where is the camera lady? Please snap a picture for us. I'm with the MPs here. I'm with the President Chitima here. I'm with Dr. Malinga here. I'm with directors here. So please take a picture for us. Say Zinasu. You can be clapping hands for us. Are you done? Thank you so much. Over to you, Programs Director.
Thank you very much, our esteemed panelists. I think together we did justice, both with our panelists and as the audience, in articulating and addressing the issues that are affecting us in higher education in terms of promoting digital literacy. Just to give you some few nuggets of what was being said here, I think there was a submission on the need to magnify and quantify the issues that are affecting students in promoting digital literacy so that they are specific to the needs of each group within the society. There was also a submission about the need to take theory into practice and also to involve the voice of the students. And then I think there was a submission by the president who clearly said that the employees in waiting are being left behind, of which Education 5.0 is speaking about inclusivity and not leaving anyone behind. And then the need to have public-private partnerships, which I think is a very key important in terms of promoting digital literacy in higher and tertiary education. And then there were also submissions about how we need to remodel the modular learning or abandon it. There was an issue to do with policy change, because I believe all that we are talking about, we are speaking into policy reforms. But then how students are participating in the whole policy formulating framework, are we being involved? And also, do we have the will to also participate in that, which is very key. We also need to take a introspection of ourselves as Zinasu and also as students. What have we been doing in terms of giving our voice when it comes to policy formulation? I understand there are public forums that are held whenever a bill or a policy needs to be passed. Are we going there to also submit our sentiments, or then we will then wait to complain when the policy has been passed? So we need to be ever present in this process. I think the Dr. Malinga also mentioned something about us kidnapping information from other authors, Mr. President. I think that one was a very strong statement. How us as students, are we allowing ourselves to do research, no matter how the space that we're given is stringent to how we need to do our research? But as students, what are we also doing? I think my sister Wusi then talked about the issue of having research-based advocates. I think it's very key for us as an institution, because we need to be factual. We need to be factual when we face the minister. We need to be factual when we face the deans of students of our issues that are happening, because you cannot be complaining without the proper facts. That's where usually most people suffer when it comes to their advocates' work. You need to do proper research before you engage the authorities, so that you are factual and you know what you are speaking to, so that you don't end up looking like a fool when you are asked questions. So I think I'll just have to read out something that I've been writing here, because what will be important after such a meeting is the advocates' work which follows, because we are not just holding these meetings so that we satisfy the ears and give a rhetoric, but we also need to have a proper plan of advocates in addressing these issues as Zimbabwe National Students Union, as students from different universities, as SRCs, because we all have a pivotal role to play in line with these issues. I understand, Mr. President, in this team with the National Executive, there are also mandates which are a bit national when it comes to addressing policy. but also you as students in your local institutions, there are key elements that the president of Zinasu cannot come maybe all the way from Harare, from UZ, to come and address the issues that are happening at NAST. There are some pertinent issues, but which might be simply solved by you as SRCs, by you as a mere student. But we also need to be equipped on how do we go around with our advocates' work. So I think there was an issue which involves the need to engage the government to invest in digital literacy. Comrade Coordinator, I think this is a key component of our advocates' work. How do we then go about to engage the government to invest in digital literacy, Mr. President? I think we need to be noting these things down, because these inform our work as we go forward as the union. And also the issue to do with modular learning revision, Mr. President. I know you and your team, you also have to devise a message of re-engagement with the responsible authorities. And I think one also key element that maybe probably we didn't actually line out is with our advocates' work. The key issue is to make sure that we have mapped out our stakeholders. We should know who we should be speaking to in various issues, because without doing so, we might be firing bullets on the wrong people. So we also need to sit down as a union, as students, and also clearly map up our stakeholders, and also how we want to engage with them and on what key issues exactly. Then I think also there's a need of a campaign in redefining and remodeling education to match the advanced world. That is a very key component of our advocacy work. Then also research on the needs of different groups in terms of digital literacy. I understand from the statements that were coming out from this room, we have seen that we all have different needs, and we are all different. We are on different stages of life, and we are on different stages in terms of the society, and also the incomes that we have and what we have as a people. So we also need to have proper research on what are the needs of a person in Binga. What are the needs of a person in Harare? How do we then segregate this information to make sure that our advocacy work doesn't leave anyone behind? And also there's a need to bring to life the innovation hubs. I think also this starts with the SRCs. How are you engaging? How are you pressurizing the administration in making sure that those innovation hubs are functional? Mr. President, this is your constituency. I think you need to be monitoring your SRCs. How are they also pressurizing the government? Because it makes your work also easier when you are now engaging on a national platform. When you've got functional SRCs, this makes your work easier. And even when you go and maybe present in front of the parliamentary portfolio on higher and tertiary education, you actually have all the evidence that we have tried these institutions, and this is where we are, but this is where we think we should be. And then lastly, I think we need also to advocate for a proper model of financing higher and tertiary education. I've been hearing the minister talking about the amounts that were being allocated, but those are not enough. And also we need to have a clear information on what is going where. Because when we say that 6 trillion have been allocated to higher and tertiary education, we also need to understand how much was allocated to people with disabilities so that they access higher and tertiary education. So we need to break down these finances and make sure that we are not leaving anyone behind. I think lastly, maybe we can then touch on the issue of engaging with the private sector. How do we then rope in the private sector in the development of our institutions? Because I believe even in the development of infrastructure in institutions, we also need the private sector. So how then can we make sure that we have a proper functional a financing model for higher and tertiary education? So I think at this point in time, I think as the students and as the Zimbabwe National Students Union, these will be key issues that will be informing our advocacy work as we go forward, because what we seek is policy change. We are not just here to air out issues, but then we want to hear the issues from the people, from different stakeholders. I understand there are people of different capacities and abilities. So even from our panelists, when we engage with these people, this is just not a one-day event, but it's a way of also building relationships. I think, Honorable Member, this means that our relationship with you also strengthens, as you mentioned that you are also coming in that new position. So that means that from this forum, we then have to have other engagements as we go forward. We have got Dr. Malinga there. As the institution of Zimbabwe National Students Union, we do these researches. So now we create partnerships with such learned people who then also help us in our research of our advocacy work. And also, obviously, to our sister Busi, who is also working with young people. I think young people, especially the students, we believe that they are the intellectuals of the society. So they have also to go back into their communities and educate. So in terms of civic engagement, from the point of the organization that she's coming from, this is a way of also fostering relationships and also fostering partnerships in terms of advocacy work. And obviously from our brother Brighton, you can see that we have got site here. They are doing a wonderful work. So these are the relationships that we want to build as students, because we are not living on an island. We are living in a society where there are people who can assist us in terms of our advocacy work. And obviously for the last panelist, which is the president of Zimbabwe National Students Union, Comrade Stima, in his wisdom, we always believe. At this particular point in time, let me give this mic to our National Gender Secretary, Lillian Mwandawaka, so that she can give us our closing remarks.
A lot was said today. I wanted to write my closing remarks, and then I remembered I'm blind and I don't have my spectacles at the moment. So please forgive me if you see me squinting. At this moment, I would really like to thank our facilitator for the way he facilitated our forum. He asked all the burning issues we had as students, and as a digital activist, he went as far as asking things that I had deep in heart. I would also like to thank our panelists for taking their time to come and talk to us as students, to become part of our panelists for our higher level education forum. I would also like to thank every one of you that attended the higher level education forum. Thank you very much. You asked burning questions and your questions were wonderful. Lastly, I would like to thank the secretariat, the Zinasu secretariat, as well as the national executive for planning this for us. As I said, I'm a digital activist, and digital inclusion, digital literacy, internet governance is something that is way behind when it comes to Zimbabwe. Because when we look at countries like Japan, they are already in the 6th, 7th industrialization. And as Zimbabwe, we are struggling in the 5th industrialization. And this was something that was very burning and needed to be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, comrades. I think we are about to conclude our high-level education forum. I will invite Vimbai to just give us announcements in terms of the logistics, issues to do with our stomachs and other issues.
Okay, thank you, Ino. News for you, and I think everyone knows that the good news is lunch is almost ready. It will be served at exactly 12 o'clock. Then just a heads up, Don't forget.